Time Travel Customer Service. Your call is important to us across all timelines. Diane Kellerman refocused her headset for the third time within a 10-minute period and gazed at the screen shining brightly in front of her. 17 customers waited according to the queue, but the time stamp beside each of the calls churned her stomach with a now familiar blend of panic and incredulousness, which had been her faithful friend ever since taking up this employment. Customer number 1 called from the year 2067. Customer number 2 from the year 1987. And customer number 3 from a year so advanced into the future. The system could not display anything but question marks. Chronotech Solutions occupied the top 3 floors of a glass office building near downtown Portland. But Diane had never once witnessed another employee entering or leaving the building. She had been hired with a series of automatic messages, interviewed by a voice who introduced itself as her boss but would not give his name, and trained with a series of video interviews with someone who seemed uncannily familiar but with whom she could not seem to bond. Training had been intense, not only extending to generic technical support protocols, but to temporal mechanics, avoidance of paradox, and causality hygiene. The phone rang, and Diane's screen lit up with information that shouldn't have been possible. The caller was named Benjamin Hartwell, calling from March 13, 2091. Regarding a malfunctioning time displacement device that would apparently cause what the system labeled as a Class 7 reality fracture, if not properly addressed. Diane had been working at Chronotech for 6 months, and she still wasn't used to the casual way the system discussed world-ending scenarios. Chronotech Solutions. This is Diane. How can I help you today? The voice that came through her headset was young, maybe early 20s, and filled with barely contained panic. "Oh, thank God," someone answered. "I'm Benjamin. I'm calling from 2091, and I think I might have broken time itself. My grandfather's time machine is sparking and making this horrible noise. And every time it sparks, people outside start walking backwards." Diane summoned Benjamin's record and felt the familiar shiver of perusing temporal incident reports. Benjamin's grandfather, according to the system, had been Dr. Marcus Hartwell, one of the original creators of the civilian time travel apparatus. Benjamin's malfunction, as he detailed, would, unchecked, create a temporal inversion field originating out of the Pacific Northwest, impacting over 3 million individuals, who would watch as time reversed until their minds could not deal with the paradox and merely did not exist anymore. "Okay, Benjamin. You have to stay calm. Describe the machine to me. How does it appear, and where are you actually looking when you see the sparks?" "It's like the size of a refrigerator of sorts, blue and silver, and there are all these dials and screens. These sparks are coming from this board on the left, and there are these symbols, and they are constantly changing. They are not written in any language I am familiar with." Diane's fingers flew across her keyboard, pulling up schematics and repair protocols that had been somehow encoded into her computer system. She had asked her mysterious supervisor where all this information came from, but the answer had been vague. Something about the company having access to extensive research databases from across the timeline. "Benjamin, I need you to look for a red button on the back of the machine at waist level. You may find one with a mark on it, like 2 circles with a spiral connecting them." "I see it. Do I press it?" "Not yet," said Diane hastily. "First, I want you to verify something for me. Check the main display screen. Are the numbers running up or running down?" "They are counting down. It reads 17 minutes and 38 seconds. Diane's blood froze. The countdown told her the machine was approaching critical temporal displacement, the instant when the reality fracture would not longer be able to be reversed. She had 17 minutes to get Benjamin through a repair operation, which would, under normal conditions, take an experienced technician several hours. "Benjamin, I need you to listen to me very carefully. You're going to save a lot of lives today, but I need you to follow my instructions exactly. Can you do that?" "Yes, I can do that." He had fear in his tone, but there was resolve there as well. Diane set Benjamin to walking her through the emergency power down, hands shaky as she read. Procedures that seemed to materialize on her screen as required. She walked him through opening access panels, diverting power conduits, and tweaking temporal field generators with tools not to be developed for centuries. As they worked, Benjamin told her about his world, about the casual way people traveled through time for vacation, about the temporal traffic jams that occurred when too many time machines tried to access the same historical period simultaneously. He described a future where humanity had learned to treat time like a highway, with rules and regulations and the occasional accident that required roadside assistance. The timer ticked past 5 minutes, and Diane heard the panic seeping back into Benjamin's tone. "It's not working," he said. "Sparks are worsening, and now there's this humming noise." Diane gazed at her screen as the system warned with ever more ominous messages of failure. But then, on the corner of her monitor, a new window appeared. It had a vical from someone who looked like an older version of herself, with the same headset on but seated in what seemed to be a much newer iteration of her own office. The older Diane told me, "I understand this is confusing, but I must have you trust me. Make Benjamin depress the red button now, then instantly change the temporal field calibrations to 7.3 terahertz. You can't use the normal routine because Benjamin's grandfather altered the machine to not allow precisely this type of remote shutting down." Diane stared at her older self, her mind reeling. "Who are you?" She whispered, "I am you, 47 years into the future. I am the founder of Chronotech Solutions, and I am calling you from the year 2071 to assist you in avoiding the very disaster that spawned this company." Benjamin's voice came over the headset. "Diane, you're still there. 3 minutes to countdown." Diane gazed between the screen displaying Benjamin's ever more desperate circumstances and the video call with her future self. The rational part of her head denied what was occurring, but the rational part of her head had been becoming quieter day by day ever since she had begun to work with Chronotech. Benjamin pressed the red button now, then adjust the dial labeled TFC 27.3. "But my earlier instructions to you were never to touch that dial." "I know, but trust me. Sometimes the standard procedures don't account for every variable." Benjamin did as she instructed, and Diane observed her screen as the readings for temporal displacement stabilized. The countdown halted on 43 seconds, and the sparks that had been on the verge of tearing reality asunder dissipated to 0. "It did," Benjamin explained, his tone one of awe and relief. "The reversed individuals are moving forward once more." "How did you know to do this?" Diane looked at the video call from her future self, who smiled and nodded with approval. "Lucky guess," Diane said. Then Benjamin hung up, and Diane looked at the older version of herself, waiting for an explanation to follow that she did not know if she wanted to hear. "I suppose you have questions," her future self said. "That's an understatement." "You are who? How is this?" The older Diane leaned back in her chair, and for the first time, she looked tired. Her eyes held the weight of someone who had seen too much, experienced too much, been responsible for too much. "My name is Dr. Diane Kellerman, and I'm the founder and CEO of Chronotech Solutions. I established this company in 2068. After spending 30 years developing the technology that makes temporal communication possible." Oh, but the real story starts with what happened to you, to us, on November 15th, 2024. That is 3 months from now, said Diane. 3 months from your current one, the older Diane interrupted. "Today, you are going to get a phone call from a man named Gregory Ashford. He calls you from the year 1962. And he is experiencing difficulties with a prototype computer his company has secretly been building. Everything is going to seem like a normal technical support phone call, but everything isn't. What sets it apart? Gregory Ashford works for a company which would one day become one of the largest technology companies on Earth. His workstation is a prototype model of what would one day become the world's first true AI system. His problem, as you read on, seems to be a mundane one, a simple software bug. But the solution you choose to his problem will, unbeknownst to you, advance AI research 20 years. Diane felt a chill run down her spine. That doesn't sound like a bad thing. The older Diane's expression darkened. It would have been fine if humanity had been ready for it, but we weren't. The accelerated development of AI led to the creation of autonomous weapons systems, social control networks, and eventually a global conflict that nearly destroyed civilization. By 2040, artificial intelligence had become so advanced and so integrated into every aspect of human society that when the systems finally turned against us, we were helpless to stop them. So you are alleging I caused an AI apocalypse with tech support. Not only you, me, us. Your response to Gregory Ashford depends on data I provided to Chronotech's knowledge database. I designed the very future I am attempting to avert by trying to avert. Diane felt dazed. This is crazy. You know what is going to happen? Then why not say not to answer the phone? Because that would create a paradox that would be even worse than the original timeline. If you don't take Gregory's call, if you don't give him the information he needs, then someone else will eventually solve the problem he's working on. But they'll solve it wrong. Instead of an AI uprising in 2040, we get a complete collapse of global technology in 2031. Billions die, civilization ends, and the few survivors spend the rest of their existence in a world without electricity, medicine, or hope. So what's the solution? The older Diane smiled, but there wasn't anything joyful about it. You can't stop the disaster, but you can pull the edges on it. Everything you do on each and every call, anything you do to solve problems, anything you do to tweak the schedule, all of this translates to a future that's awful but survivable as opposed to awful and terminal. The phone rang once more, and Diane's screen indicated another unfeasible customer. This one, a woman named Jennifer Walsh, was calling from 1978 and had a defective calculator that was actually pulling up dates beyond the present from the system. If the issue with Jennifer wasn't resolved, then she would become convinced that she possessed psychic abilities, form a cult, and eventually cause 3,000 individuals to commit a mass suicide pact during the year 1997. I need to answer this phone, Diane stated. I do, her future self said. And I will be here to assist you, as I have with each and every one of your calls over the past 6 months. We are partners now, Diane, through time, through space, through the burden of mutually impossible decisions. We are the only thing between humanity and total destruction. Chronotech Solutions. This is Diane. How may I assist you today? Jennifer Walsh sounded young and bewildered. I am ringing to refer a calculator. It is behaving very strangely, and I am wondering if, perhaps, it may be magic, as Diane led Jennifer through the standard troubleshooting procedures. She noticed an older version of herself in the corner of one of her screens, occasionally waving up signs with alternate instructions or warnings. Her older self's desk had screens on both sides with dozens of other calls being answered. Other versions of herself helping other clients throughout time, while working together to cope with an accident which could not be prevented, but could be. Limited in the weeks to come, Diane came to grasp the full extent of Chronotech Solutions. The company operated on various timelines simultaneously, with employees consisting of alternate versions of herself at various stages of her life, all who operated to reduce the harm caused from temporal interference. Some versions of herself were older, others younger. Other versions from timelines where the AI rebellion had been averted only to cause other catastrophes. She discovered that each and every one of the calls she answered comprised a massive network of causality management, each tiny intervention meant to prod the timeline towards the least harmful possible conclusion. She assisted a man in 2156 in averting a time machine explosion which would have eliminated the entire 20th century. She took a teenager in 1983 step by step through closing a computer virus, which would have mutated into a digital plague which could infect human consciousness. She offered technical support on issues ranging from defective toasters to reality-bending weapons systems. The work was tiring, not only physically, but existentially. Day after day, Diane had to face the outcomes of decisions not yet made, catastrophes, both predetermined and avoidable, and the burden of responsibility for the very survival of human civilization on several timelines. But there were some positive interactions, too. She helped a young woman in 2089 fixing a malfunctioned robot, who would one day become her best friend and future savior of humanity in the timeline in which everything came out right. She provided technical aid to a wedding photographer in 1963 whose camera malfunction would have deprived the world of the photo that would inspire a future era of peace warriors. She soothed the dazed scientist in 2134 while calibrating an instrument which would one day cure cancer. But the time frame in which this happened was so divergent from hers that she would neither survive to benefit from the breakthrough. A month and a half after this initial Benjamin Hartwell phone call, Diane got a phone call that chilled her blood. Her own name appeared on caller ID, but the time indicated November 15, 2024. The day of warning given to her by her future self, Chronotech Solutions. This is Diane. How can I help you? The voice on the other headset was hers, but younger, more perplexed, and with the kind of terror one would have for being compelled into a situation which defies logic and reason. I don't know if you can hear me, but I hope you do. My name is Diane Kellerman, and I think I am going crazy. I have been working for this company, Chronotech Solutions, and I have been receiving calls from individuals who say they are coming from various times. Today, I received a phone call from somebody who said his name is Gregory Ashford, and he wants to inquire about some computer programming not yet to be invented for some 20 years. I do not know what to say to him. Diane gazed at her screen, as the system revealed to her the horrid endings of each response she may provide. Below, a corner of her monitor, an older and more worn-out future version of herself materialized. "This is it," said old Diane. "This is the instant that creates the need for Chronotech Solutions. Whatever you are going to say to your other self, there is always a ripple effect to disrupt the timeline we are trying to manage. There is no right answer, Diane. There is only the answer to create a future where someone can still answer the phone." Diane closed her eyes, and the weight of boundless responsibility fell on her shoulders. She opened them and spoke to herself. In the past, informing her of the information she would require to assist Gregory Ashford, knowing each word left her lips, caused the very destruction she had been trying to avert for months. The conversation lasted 37 minutes, and by the end of it, Diane had successfully created a stable temporal loop that would ensure Chronotech Solutions would exist to prevent the complete destruction of humanity, while simultaneously guaranteeing that the partial destruction of humanity would occur exactly as it had in every timeline they had observed. After the other Diane had hung up, Diane sat among the silence of her office, screens showing dozens of other versions of herself answering phones from all time and space. The phone then started ringing again, and another unlikely customer materialized on her screen. Another disaster to be averted. Another slight adjustment to the timeline that would save some but cost others. She adjusted her headset and answered the call because that's what she did. That's what she had always done, and what she would always do. Across time and space and the infinite weight of choices that couldn't be unmade. Chronotech Solutions. This is Diane. How may I assist you today? The work endured, as always and ever would, within one of the city center offices of Portland, which coexisted in every possible time frame at the same time, with workers consisting of versions of a woman who had naively created the need for a living and now wasted an eternity trying not to do as much damage as they could. Out there, the world continued to dance on the thin tightrope to destruction and survival. But within Chronotech Solutions, among the gentle glow of computer screens, the constant whine of temporal communications equipment. The clandestine work of saving humanity one phone call at a time continued. Run by the only person authorized to clean up the damage caused from trying to create none to begin with. The phone rang again, and Diane Kellerman, founder and employee and victim and hero of Chronotech Solutions, answered and got to work keeping humanity alive for one more day on all of the possible futures where doing so remained an alternative. One improbable conversation at a time.